Feel free to ask me questions about some of the things we've got coming and some of the things we're looking for. So these five people here who I'm interviewing today all submitted a short story for the Fantasy contest. And this contest was basically give us your best fantasy short story. We'd put it in the anthology, and we would have the top five get go to Fantasy, hopefully, and then Fantasy would pick their winner, the best short story that we got submitted. And they're going to have a hell of a time picking from these five stories. So I'm going to go down the screen as I perceive you guys, as the way Zoom has arranged you, and ask for you to introduce yourself, and we'll go from there. Jamie, go ahead. We'll start with you.
I'm Jamie Ibsen, Token Canuck. Started writing after attending LibertyCon 30 a couple years ago. This is going to be my second fantasy short story that's been published. I did a goofy, humorous one for the Storming Area 51 anthology last year. Otherwise, I've just had the two novels published, Gunboat Diplomacy that I co-wrote with Jason Cordova, and Pacific Shogun in Christopher Woods' Fallen World. As of next Friday, I'm going to be retired from the RCMP, and I will be transitioning to writing full time, and I've got about 7 novels on deck that I need to get banged off. So here we go.
All right, Benjamin, you're next.
Hey everyone, Benjamin Tyler Smith. I am a rookie novelist. I only have 2 books out at the moment. The first one is Blue Crucible that came out for earlier last year in the Fallen World post-apocalyptic sci-fi universe. It and its sequel, Blue Salvation, are basically mounted cops trying to save the world one city block at a time. I also write in a fantasy universe of my own creation called Necrolopolis, which is the story that is going to be in this anthology for this contest. And also another story of Necrolopolis was in the When Valor Must Hold fantasy anthology that Rob also edited. So if you like dark fantasy with a little bit of humor and action mixed in, I think it'll be up your alley.
It's also got hints of noir. It's fantastic. I'm looking forward to getting more Necrolopolis stuff from Benjamin, as he has repeatedly heard from me.
There definitely is a book in the works. I can promise that.
Melissa, you're up next.
Hey, I'm Melissa Oltoff. I am super new at this. I don't have any novels published yet, but I'm working on my first one. It's a follow-up to the first short story I'd published last year called Working Titles Unbreakable. It's in a universe of my own creation. It's a follow-on to Shatter Me, which was published in the Flights of Fantasy anthology with Chris Kennedy Publishing. I started writing basically because Casey told me to, so it's all his fault and he can take the credit. So I'm having fun with it though.
Excellent. James, you're up next. Oh, you're muted. You're muted, James.
I don't know why I was muted. Sorry. I'm James Chandler. I write under JP Chandler. This is my first novel. They Call Me Princess. The reviews have been pretty good. I'm working on the sequel. This will be my second short story published. The first one was in the Four Horsemen universe anthology called, Tales from the Lion's Den. There's about 5 anthologies in that series, so you gotta find that one. I've been writing for a while now. I've got, let's see, what was the question again?
Well, who are you?
Oh gosh, I live on the West Coast. I'm a California guy. I've been writing since I was 14. I only got serious about it back in 2018 when I decided to submit a short story for the 4HU, and here I am today.
Awesome. The questions will get more complicated, James.
Oh,
Casey, you
oh
are
no!
up.
Early here on the West Coast, guys. Come on.
It is. I'm sorry. Casey,
Right, I'm Casey Moores. I just retired from the Air Force after 18 years of flying. Well, 20 years in the Air Force, but 18 years of flying rescue and special ops C-130s. I started writing back in I think my first published story was September of 2019, also in the Area 51, the Storming Area 51 anthology. I've got a mix of sci-fi and fantasy stories out there. I've got one fantasy story that's related to the world I wrote in the Heart's Enchantment anthology, if you want to look that up, by Jenny Posthumus. I've got one book out right now, These Things We Do, in the Four Horsemen universe, and I'm working on the sequel to that one. I also might have a JTF 13 novel through Three Ravens Publishing, Hillbillies on right now.
That's John Holmes, right? That's John Holmes.
That was John Holmes. It's now Three
Used to be.
Ravens. It was Canon Publishing. Now it's Three Ravens Publishing.
Okay.
And we're working on a schedule for that. I think that'll be out in April. My story of monster hunting Civil War Marines. So I got started by another Casey telling me to write, Casey Izell, who you might know from Bane Books and the Four Horsemen universe and a few other things. She's gotten pretty big. She's written quite a bit, and it's all awesome. And sometime while she was getting into the Four Horsemen universe, she started saying, hey, Casey, you want to write? At the time, I was still in the Air Force going, when am I going to do that? But then I started, cooling off, slowing down, retiring, and had some ideas and found some time. So I started doing that. And then I figured I'd pay it forward by making Melissa share my pain.
That's what it's all about.
So
This entire thing is driven by peer pressure. It's glorious.
Yes.
It really is.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are here watching, I will be looking at the chat window for Zoom here. If you're watching on the Discord channel, feel free to put questions either into the live stream section. I think you can do that. But also put questions in the Rob Howell section. Any questions we don't get to in the meeting here, we'll try and answer as the weekend goes over. So if you look, there's a Rob Howell section in the guest section on the left. And so put questions there and we'll get to them as we can. But for the questions that are on Zoom, we're going to try and get to them because they disappear after the meeting's over. All right. So the first question I have for you guys is, why are you here? I mean, what got you into writing? What are some of your influences? What are some of your, favorite creators? I mean, some of you talked about the peer pressure, but let's talk about what got you into the thought of writing in the first place before your peers decided to tell you what to do. So again, I'm going to go in order of what the screen shows me, and the screen has changed now. So Benjamin, you're first.
All right. Well, what first got me into writing, where I was seriously wanting to read and write fantasy, was a video game called Betrayal at Krondor, set in Raymond Feist's Midkemia series of books. This is still my favorite PC RPG of all time. Played the crap out of it, found out it was based on a book series. I think I had to have been in middle school at the time. Burned through 10 or 12 full-length novels, and I've been doing fan fiction and then ultimately professional fiction ever since. Got truly serious about it a few years ago, and God's opened some doors for me, given me some good connections, some good colleagues and friends that have helped encourage me with the whole peer pressure thing, and I am very blessed to be here.
Great. Melissa, you're next.
Oh boy. Okay. So I don't know. I always loved reading. Grew up on, all the serials like Animorphs, Goosebumps, Thoroughbred, all that stuff. And then I think it was like 7th grade, my English teacher challenged me to, step up my reading level a little bit. And I discovered Anne McCaffrey's Dragon Riders of Pern, which just opened a whole new world for me as far as sci-fi and then fantasy. One of my uncles got me The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and the Sword of Shannara series for Christmas one year, and I was hooked. So I've been reading all that stuff my whole life. And then I joined the Air Force. And then I got put on med hold when I was in pilot training, and I had to sit up in a front office and look like I was doing something. I didn't really have anything to do, so I started writing. It looked great. It looked like I was busy. And started writing my first book completely by the seat of my pants. It will never see the light of day, and that's okay. Took a break for a couple of years from writing because I had children, and as some of you know, that's challenging. But as we talked about the peer pressure thing, Casey asked me to read some stuff for him, and he's like, hey, there's this submission. You can try and shoot for. I had 3 weeks, thank you, but it worked out pretty good. So I like writing because it's a good outlet. My husband's a pilot, so he's gone a lot, and it gives me something to do when I am home alone with children. Did I mention I have children?
Once or
We
twice.
expect to see them at some point today, the way they, we've seen in the past.
They always seem to show up.
They
Yeah.
they
I'm
do.
hiding. They can't find me this time.
So you say.
James, you're up next. Your mute's on again, James. James.
I did that on purpose. I'm kidding. There's always a little bit of goofball in me. What started me writing? Very similar story when I was young. Fantasy and science fiction were my escape. I didn't have a horrible childhood, but we moved around a lot, so I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't get to play my first RPG until I was, I think I was 26 or 27 years old. That's the kind of lack of friendship I had. But I started writing about, I think it was the summer when I was 14. I first sat down to try to write my first novel. Just wanted to be like the writers I read. And kind of worked my way through trying to write novels for a long time. When I went to college, I got my English degree, and we did a lot of short stories. And that's where I really kind of...
I don't know why it's muting on its own.
Yeah. Just not going to touch the keyboard. So anyway, that's how I got started. I've been working on it for a long time. I was a lawyer for many years and had to work on knowing how to use words. So I do words good. And then about 2 years ago, I got the opportunity to submit for the 4HU anthology and decided to take a stab at it and see what happened.
Awesome. Casey, you're up.
All right. Honestly, I hadn't really thought about this until Benjamin brought it up. But way back in the day on my Commodore 64, I had a game called Grid Runner. And I want to say sometime around and I always wrote stories when I was a kid in elementary school, but I wrote some sort of school writing submission or something about Grid Runner and how the crew and the pilots on this game, it was almost sort of like Galaga or something, but they had, attacked a asteroid and then hollowed it out and made their own and made their base out of it and then fought the aliens. And that was really the first thing I wrote. And like I said, I sort of wrote through elementary school. I definitely loved Token, and I loved all the animated versions of all of his, I read the books and I grew up on the animated versions of all those. I got into Battletech.
Yes, the animated films are epic.
Oh yeah, those are beautiful works of art. And anyway, got into the board game Battletech back when it was just a board game, and started reading all those books. And then I started wrote some Battletech stories. But I'm gonna say about the time that I went to the Air Force Academy, joined the Air Force, and then suddenly my 20-year career had passed, I hadn't really written much of anything in a long time until, like I said, things were winding down, and Girl Casey told me I was going to be a writer now, because that's what she does.
True.
All right, Jamie, you're up.
I kind of got my start with sci-fi and fantasy on my dad's bookshelf. He had a whole bunch of Heinlein and Spider Robinson and Joe Haldeman. Picked up, some of the classics like Starship Troopers and things like that. When I was in public school, our class did a business where we sold fresh milk to the rest of the school, and then at the end of the year, everybody got money that they could go spend at the bookstore. And we brought back a whole bunch of Forgotten Realms books. And then in grade 7 or grade 8, my teacher tapped me on the shoulder and just dropped this 1,000-page omnibus of The Deed of Paxenarian on my desk. And it was the biggest book I'd ever seen at that point. And I kind of went, "What is this?" And he says, "Let me know." And that was where I got really hooked on fantasy stuff. I adore the Deed of Paxenarian series, and just huge fan of that. Fast forward 20-something years, and I found out that conventions were a thing, because I'd never been to one before, never even heard of them before, and took the trip to Chattanooga and went to LibertyCon. Had a blast, was levitating about 6 inches off the ground the entire weekend as I met so many of the writers that I enjoyed. And when I came back the next year, I'd been writing, and away we go. So right now I've got mostly short stories published, the 2 novels that came out in 2020, and more on deck.
So to a certain extent, we have Brandy to blame for your existence as a writer. Oh, hi, Brandy.
Hi, Brandy. We love you.
So I want to speed this question up a little bit. I've talked to you guys about this in the past, but I want you guys to very quickly give me one thing you're good at, and we'll go around the circle real quickly, and then we'll talk about some of those things and about how you guys as new writers or fairly new writers can encourage those techniques in other writers. So, Jamie, we'll go back to you. What's one thing you're good at?
I think I'm good at writing hand-to-hand scraps in particular. I've been taking martial arts for, it's 2021, so 16, 17 years. I've been in quite a number of fights as a police officer, and I was in the military before that in the infantry. So trying to capture, the chaos of a fight can be tricky. And so, I can think my way through, okay, well, if they do this, then I can do that, and slow down the fight a little bit from the character's point of view, and articulate what's actually happening. I've read some other writers who do hand-to-hand fighting very well, and it seems the common theme is getting out there and doing it. If you want to know about what it's like to fight longsword, talk to somebody who's in the SA and actually bashes people with swords, for fun. If you want to talk to a gun guy, that's where you're going to get your well-articulated firefights and things like that. And the cool thing these days is that there is enough going on out there in the hobby world that even if you're not a police officer, not in the military, you can get out there and still practice.
All right, Casey, you're up next. Oh, sorry, Jamie, I didn't mean to cut you off. You got it? Jamie, were you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Oh, sorry. Casey,
I've got a second audio coming in for some reason.
And how would you suggest someone get good at it?
All right. I like to think I'm good at humanizing the characters. At least that's my goal. I try to get into their heads, across each other, and so when characters are interacting, try and make that fun, realistic. Try and show what they're thinking, what their motivations are, things like that. And that's really just sort of having some experience in the world and in life, knowing how people interact with each other, knowing how, in diving deep into your own, subconscious and psyche, and understanding how you feel, how you see things, how you process things. It's not always the cut and dry. People have a discussion, they resolve the thing, and they move on from there, which I think is sort of a trap young writers fall into, which I definitely have fallen into myself, is making things a little bit too easy. You have the answer, and the people look at it and say, well, there's the answer. You've got to back up a little bit, make it real, and show how they might misinterpret things, how they might get into arguments over stupid things just because they're miscommunicating. That's what I'm trying to do. I will say in my current work, I feel like I'm completely failing at it, but I think I definitely have some scenes that I've loved, that I've published in the past, that I love the interactions that have played out that way.
I have to chuckle at that, because if there's any one failing I have, and there are more than one, of course, but it's making things way too complicated, and
yeah,
because I like intricate.
I think I'm currently erring in that direction on my current work.
James, give me one thing you're good at, and one thing and how you'd suggest to somebody to get better at it.
Oh gosh. I find I do my best work when I'm on a deadline. So I find that what I am good at is efficiency. I can usually do a lot with with less words, which I enjoy that challenge. Unfortunately, It's like the famous quote from Mark Twain: "If I had more time, I'd write a shorter letter." Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to get that efficiency, to make the writing look efficient, when in fact you don't really, it took you a while to trim it down that way. But I've gotten very good at that, I think, not wasting words too much. Good editors help with that. And trusting editors isn't something I'm good at. So it's something I need to work on. So if you are writing, I would say most people don't worry too much about that. It's let your editor bleed on your page rather than trying to do it all yourself.
It's a team effort, no doubt about it. And that's sort of how I view my job as editor and publisher, is to make sure that you get a chance to get your story as in as good a shape as possible.
Oh,
Melissa.
It definitely is important to do that. If I can just say one thing about as a new writer, if you are blessed to the point that you do get an editor interested enough in your work that they want to work on it with you in order to publish it, definitely let them bleed all over it. That is critical. I had one story get accepted a few years ago to this semi-professional magazine. The editor emailed me, told me she loved my story. There were just going to be a couple of little things that needed to be done to it. I said, okay, cool. A couple of weeks go by. I then get the file, and oh yeah, exactly, Casey. There is nothing but red all over everything. I have to redo this. Comments are like, I don't know what you were thinking when you wrote this. And I mean, she was
I thought you
harsh.
said you loved it.
Oh, and that was my initial reaction, was I thought she said she loved this thing. She did. She loved what it could be. She knew it could be a lot better than it was. And I had to rip the thing apart, but I learned so much in that process. So definitely develop a thick skin. Be willing to submit yourself to that, and it will help you go far.
Well, and I certainly have to say I appreciate that concept, both from me as a writer, and because I've had much the same happen for me, and as an editor now. I mean, there's a lot of work that I put into some of these stories that I've done, that I've edited, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't have to, or didn't want to be honest. You guys' stories were great and powerful and strong, and Quincy there is also a great writer. But I have a tendency to be heavy-handed with my stuff, because I like to see, I have a vision of awesomeness for all you guys. And sometimes I'm right, and sometimes I'm stupid, but that's a different thing. Melissa, I believe you should save me from my stupidity right about now. You're up. One thing you're great at, and how you'd suggest to other people to get better.
Real quick, before I get to that, I will say that you are the first editor I've actually worked with. The first two short stories I had published, it was very light editing, no real content editing on them. So it was kind of terrifying getting, the file back from you. I'm like, oh God, what do I have to, what doesn't he like? But working with you was fantastic. So
thank you.
You made it a lot less scary, which I appreciated. So as far as things I think that I do well, I generally like doing the character interaction, the witty banter, the back and forth, and developing those character arcs. I always love getting a romantic subplot in my stories, even if I have to sneak it in a little bit. I like developing that relationship between two characters and building up the heat and just making it more realistic. I don't like stories or characters where things come too easy. I like it to have that realism to it, where you can actually see that happening to somebody, even if it is in a fantasy or sci-fi setting. And the way I get that is kind of like Casey said, you put yourself in the character's shoes, especially easy if it's a first person story where you're in that person's head. But I also try and take snippets, arguments, interactions that happen in real life with my friends, with my family, and just go, yeah, that could fit in this story, and that actually works for this character, and it just makes it feel more real to me. So the more real they feel, the more the story just kind of comes together.
Agreed. Benjamin, you had a really good one already. Do you want to do another one real quickly, or shall we move on to something else?
I would say just very quickly for me, a lot of people have told me I'm really good at laying in world building details without derailing the story. and I do think that's something that is, as new writers especially, it's a hard it's a delicate balance to make of, how much world details do you put into a scene without stalling the dialogue, stalling the storyline, but how much do you need in order to keep people interested enough, not just in what's happening in the moment, but also in the greater world around them. So my advice to writers would be definitely do your world building, know enough about your world to be able to accomplish that, but only probably be showing about 10% of what you have. And then occasionally give the readers a little bit bigger glimpse of more than that, but not so much that everything comes to a screeching halt.
I have to say that of the slush stuff that I've been given that's been submitted to me so far, and this is also true of the short stories, that the biggest black mark is too much exposition within the opening paragraphs. I have sort of reached a philosophy on novels that if by the end of the second chapter, I don't care about your main character or characters, whether it's because I've seen them in a fight and do cool things, or because I can see some of their, I see them interacting in fun ways. I don't really care how you get there, but by the end of the second chapter, I don't care about your main characters. I probably am not going to make it to the third or make it through the third. Now, that's not always worked. I actually have a slush that turns out that the first two chapters were all really struggling and I couldn't get through it. And I had a second pair of eyes look at it, and she's much more determined than I am. And she says it really does get better later. So we're going to try and work that. But if you're looking to submit, get people interested into your characters as quickly as possible. I have not always succeeded at this, but it is something I do think is important. I'm going to revisit the question places. If you have questions that you want us to ask later, pop them into the Rob Howell channel on Discord on the Chattacon page. I haven't seen any real questions pop through except some wonderful comments from people on the chat window for Zoom. But if you do have one that you want us to get to, we'll try and get to that there. Again, you can put it into the Discord channel. Now I'm going to go to some of the lightning round stuff for a little bit so that we can get to some of the real important questions that you guys have heard some of these questions before. So I expect you guys to give us good answers because, these are the real crucial questions that everybody wants to know about their writers. Who's your favorite Muppet? Benjamin, you first.
The two old guys in the peanut gallery. I forget their names.
Statler and Waldorf.
There we go.
Melissa, who's your favorite Muppet?
Skeeter. She was on Muppet Babies. I don't think she ever made it to true Muppethood, but she was a little tomboy and I loved her growing up.
True Muppethood. Quincy just posted that his favorite Muppet is Animal. Raise your hand if you're surprised.
If you're surprised.
Nope.
Jamie, you're up. Who's your favorite Muppet?
Pepe.
Pepe.
Yeah.
You're a shrimp guy. Or a prawn guy. He's a prawn.
I am a king prawn.
Yes. Casey, your favorite Muppet?
Beaker, because that was my wife's nickname at some point. So
That was her nickname for you, or your?
no, that was her
for
nickname. Sometime before I met her, her nickname was Beaker, and now it's my favorite Muppet.
Oh.
Note to self: don't call his wife Beaker first thing when I meet her.
Second thing.
Go for it. See what happens. Sorry.
I dare you.
As we've been discussing, like fighting or not fighting in the Zoom chat.
Good
James, who's your
research.
favorite Muppet?
Oh, it's probably a tie between Animal and the Swedish Chef.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Now,
I'm
there
surprised
would
this
be an
chef hadn't
Iron
come
Chef
up. That's
by
like
the quad.
mostly
And
incomprehensible.
Swedish Chef
Yeah.
doing reality show. Wouldn't that be amazing? All right. So, what cartoon character are you, Jamie?
What cartoon character am I?
Yes.
I don't really watch cartoons. It all went downhill after 1989.
Oh my God.
We're gonna go with Sergeant Slaughter. That's who you are.
Oh, okay.
All
Going
right,
straight to
Benjamin,
G.I. Joe.
who
Yep,
are
there
you?
we go.
Oh, geez.
Benjamin, which cartoon character are you?
JT Marsh from Exo Squad.
James, how about you?
Wile E. Coyote.
All right. I'll remember that when I'm road running.
Definitely
around
sympathize
so
with him.
fast. Melissa, how about you?
Oh, according to Casey, I'm Tigger because I'm bouncy, and according to my kids, I'm Pinkie Pie from My Little Pony. So, yay!
Wow.
Your Pinkie Pie cosplaying as Tigger.
I would much rather be like, a paladin of Voltron or something. Give me a giant battle robot lion thing in space. That would be much more fun. Character with a sword, maybe, so I can hit people.
All right, Casey, how about you?
I'm gonna go with Rick Hunter from Robotech.
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a good one.
No
Not
fair.
really,
You're a
but
pilot in real
that's-
life, though.
If you like Robotech, you would love Exo Squad. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Still trying to
All
dig
right.
through Last Exile as much as I whenever
Oh
I can.
man,
All right,
That's a
here's
good
the
one,
tough
too.
one. Here's a tough one. The stuff you've written or the stuff you plan to write, you have a star character. Who's the actor or actress that you want to play your star character, your main protagonist? So, I see. I've got you stumped. I like this. Look at the confusion on their faces. My job is going well here. Ha 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 ha. For mine is an evil laugh. Jamie, since you seem to be in the most excellent position because you've got the most excellent shirt, you go first. Who would you want to play one of your main characters?
I would want Tom Holland to play Flint in Songbird, which will be in the anthology.
Okay. Benjamin, how about you?
in my Necrolopolis universe, I've got a character named Ash Warden. He is an ashling, which is the risen remains of a cremated person. He's essentially the head of a gang of ashlings. I would want Gary Oldman to play him.
Great choice. He's a brilliant actor. Pretty much,
He is, and he can play good guys and bad guys.
he can play whatever the heck he wants. He's amazing.
Yep.
James, how about you? Do you have a favorite actor or an actor you'd like to see one of your characters play?
I think Keira Knightley would fit one of my favorite characters.
Why?
She's a female archer who's morally ambiguous. I think she would just fit the role really well.
Casey, you've been stroking your beard in thought. Yes. Which actor or actress plays a character in your world, if you could have anybody?
Well, my biggest favorite main character is Bull, the main character of my novel, These Things We Do. And, I kind of picture an older Bull, maybe as Vincent D'Onofrio with a shaved head. But somebody brought up that Dwayne Johnson could play him. So now that's all I can get in my head anymore. So definitely in
Nice.
These Things We Do, when we're with younger Bull, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
I will say, when you say Bull and character, I go straight to Richard Mall from Night Court because I love that show.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Melissa, how about you?
Holy crap, I'm struggling, guys. Some of you might not watch cartoons anymore, but that is all I watch. The only adult, non-child TV show I watch right now is The Expanse. So because eye candy is always appreciated, I would go with Wes Chatham. He plays Amos. And I'd probably stick him in the short story I published in the Men in Uniform anthology by with Chris Kennedy Publishing, as of course
The romance story where the men in uniforms were being unbuttoned, shall we say?
Exactly.
The men in uniform were
The men
quickly
out
out
of
of uniform.
Exactly.
Excellent. One last one. Well, we'll do the double one that we had so much fun with last time. What's your wrestler name and what's your favorite wrestling move? What's your signature wrestling move?
Hated this one.
And
Still don't.
Casey, did you say you hated this one?
I was like, oh, good. We got through this one in the practice, so this won't
So
come
we
back
won't
up
have
in
to
the
do it
replay.
again.
Casey, you're up.
All right.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Hearing.
All right. My wrestler name would be the Weasel, and my signature move would be the ankle bite.
Jamie.
I'm the frozen hoser, and my signature move is the flying hip check.
Melissa.
Tigger, and my signature move is the super bounce. I
Ounce.
hate wrestling.
Benjamin.
Sweet Tea Man is my name, and my signature move is the diabetic coma.
And James.
I'm busy laughing at these too hard to think. Mine would probably be pretty lame. They'll probably be the magistrate, and my signature would be the final judgment.
Dude.
He banged his gavel. All right, that's great.
Drop the gavel.
Finish him. Fatality.
There we go. There we go. See, the part 3 of this needs to be how would this be animated in Mortal Kombat?
There we go.
Yes.
All right. So for those of you who are in the Zoom meeting who aren't on the panel necessarily, do any of you have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and say them out loud.
How many of y'all am I going to see at Fantasy?
Oh, good question.
Well, unfortunately, you're not going to see me because I have a daughter on the way who's supposed to be there that weekend. So,
Congrats.
thank you.
Awesome.
That has derailed the convention scene, at least for the early part of the year, in a good way. We're excited.
Sure, but we can find a doula. It's cool. Just bring her along. We'll set you up with a pool. It's cool.
There we go.
Yvonne's got
Convention
solutions
birth.
here.
It's going to be the next thing. It's the next thing. You could start the trend.
We could go viral with that. Why not?
No, don't go viral during a birth. That's a bad idea.
So Casey, are you going to be at Fantasy?
That's the plan. If it happens, I've got a room reserved. I got my membership rolled over from last year, I assume.
You bring a beaker with you?
We'll see. I'll try. I'll see if she wants to come along.
She was coming. That's up in the air now.
We thought it was going to be overlapping possibly some cheer competitions, but I think those aren't happening at all. So for the season, so we'll see. I'll try. I'd like to.
Jamie, you'll be there, right?
Nope.
Oh, is
Border's
the move
closed.
getting in the way?
No, there's kind of like an international border that I have to cross.
Oh yeah, there's that.
We can smuggle you across.
Canada's not another country. What are you talking about?
You know what? New Brunswick has actually closed its borders to other Canadians too. And we have to have our purchase documents in hand when we get off the plane or they don't let us in.
Oh my
So
God.
we'll be flying out on February 12th, 3 weeks. And then we've got to self-isolate for 2 weeks after that. So it'll be a good time. I'm gonna get a lot of writing done.
Yeah, you better.
James, how about you?
I'm working on it, but no guarantees at this point. So hoping to
Maybe
make it.
Melissa.
Unsure at this point. My husband doesn't get his schedule until March. So once we know if he'll be able to watch the kids for me, then I'll have to see if I can even be in the area. I mean, I don't have a ticket and they stopped selling them. So
Now we're talking Fantasy. There are it has no cap.
no? Okay. I thought I saw
So-
something on the website that they were done selling tickets.
Well, that may be that something I don't remember, but I suspect. Well, I'll have to investigate that. I didn't realize that they were capping it at Fantasy. Now,
No,
WonderCon, they're capping. They always
No,
cap
that's for the
WonderCon.
dining. That's
Ah.
for the
There
dining.
was, yeah, there was
Oh,
dining.
yeah.
and-
That's
Okay.
not for the actual convention. There are a lot of things in place as far as for safety. And there's a whole thing on the website as to how it's safe it's going to be. But I guarantee you, if I have to be in the parking lot with my car and a tent and a stool and a burner and cook for myself the entire time, I'm going to be there. So just so you know, there's an effort and I'm going to take it.
So you're doing barbecue for everybody. Cool.
Yeah. That's what
You
I.
know-
That's what it sounded like to me.
A barbecue tent.
There's been a lot of
And
talk
gumbo.
about potluck going on. So we'll see.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm
I'll
missing
bring
out on
chips
a
and
lot of
salsa.
stuff.
I will try.
I will point out having a daughter is probably pretty cool
I-
recompense for missing fantasy.
I am sure it is. But Yvonne makes a mean bowl of gumbo. I'm just
He
saying.
does.
Pretty
Yeah.
compelling.
And I'm not kidding. I think convention births. That's the way to go.
All right.
I will run
if you
it
are
by
a man, you
Camille.
have absolutely zero say in this at all.
Hey, look on the panel at 6 p.m. Listen to your birth.
No.
In the con
Benjamin
suite.
Tyler
There
Smith
we go.
author, live birth panel.
Hey, you got to admit the Baby Yoda cosplay would
Honey,
be
what are you doing? Nothing, dear. Sorry.
Wow,
Right.
derailed.
So maybe I should take this back towards the rails. Anybody else with a question that doesn't involve birth?
So, what is your favorite your favorite story or funniest story you've ever written in your entire repertoire?
Benjamin, you go first.
My favorite universe is definitely my Necrolopolis stuff. I plan to write that until I drop dead at the ripe old age of whatever the Good Lord gives me. Geez, of the stories I've written of it, probably my two favorites, or my absolute favorite one is, I believe, the one I submitted for this anthology, On a Wing and a Train. That one was, I thought, turned out really well. It really helped with the comments you gave me as well, Rob. And then also the one for the When Valor Must Hold anthology, the Hang by a Thread. Those two are my favorites.
They're pretty awesome stories. There's a reason I've been nagging at you for more stuff. So no, it's good stuff. And so I hope you guys take a look at his previous released Necropolis book, and then also the two Songs of Valor, the When Valor Must Hold, or two books of Valor, When Valor Must Hold and Songs of Valor, which comes out in March. Fantastic stories. Jamie, what's your funniest or favorite and or funniest story that you've written?
Funniest is easily the Area 51 foolishness from the Storming Area 51 anthology. My favorite bit was being able to include cobra chickens as like feral war beasts that, basically like raged forth from their kennels, like flapping, hissing, honking piranhas on wings. It was silly and it was lighthearted, and I wrote it in about a week. But it was incredibly freeing to be able to just write something that was ridiculous and fun, and not worry about the bigger picture, worry about trying to, well, if I do this, then what about that, and think about the world building. I just, that's how it is, and we're just going to run with it. And it turned out really well. Apparently I need to write more like that.
So I suspect everybody knows the term Cobra Chicken, but just because it's an awesome term, you should explain the term Cobra Chicken.
So 2018 on Twitter, there's a story about a farm worker who didn't speak a lot of English and found himself cornered in a barn by an angry Canada goose. And the other staff at the farm eventually went looking for him, found him, and they were able to like get the goose away, and he was able to escape. And not knowing the proper term for the bird, he says something to the effect of, "I do not like the cobra chicken." And the tweet went insanely viral, and ever since then, because I'm always on the lookout for anything that makes Canada sound like it rivals Australia for dangerous fauna. Cobra chicken is one of them. We also talk about swamp donkey kaiju, which are moose, things like that. But yeah, so this idea that there's these vicious predatory goose-sized birds that they get transported to the battlefield, and then they just like throw open the kennel and stand back and watch the carnage. That's one of the things that the bad guys did in the middle of the battle.
Release the Cobra Chickens. All right, James, what's your favorite or most funniest story that you've written?
I don't usually write comedy but I like to insert humor here and there. But I thought the story Lucky in Tales from the Lion's Den was pretty humorous, and so I thought there was some pretty subtle humor in that I enjoyed.
We're running low on time, so Melissa and Casey, let's be quick so that everybody can say goodbyes. So Melissa, favorite character or story?
Funniest is something I actually literally wrote in 2 days for anthology submission by Zombies Need Brains. Casey told me about it, and my son is obsessed with dinosaurs, like totally obsessed. So we have watched every Jurassic Park, every Jurassic World, every Jurassic Lego thing. We even have the video game. And the day before the submission was due, I had a random idea and I cranked out 3,300 words that day. And the day it was due, another 3,700 words. I've never written like that in my life. It was completely unedited and raw and just ridiculous about like this girl being hunted by dinosaurs in the forest. And it's showing it from both the dinosaurs' perspective and the girl's. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever written, and I loved it. It's probably going to be rejected, but I don't care because it was fantastic. But favorite would definitely be Oathbreaker. I took months on that one for this anthology. I put a lot of heart and soul into it, and it's probably the best thing I've ever written so far. So
it's quite
funniest
good.
And favorite.
It's quite good. Both Chris and I latched onto it very quickly once we read to it. We both jumped on. Wow, that's really good. All right, Casey, you're up. Last one, and then we'll get to goodbyes.
Okay. Honestly, I'm not really sure if I can think of anything that's humorous. If Melissa is one of my cheerleaders, if you can think of something, let me know. I think Interview with the Fire Guy, which is what I just submitted to Zombies Needs Brains also. It's about Prometheus, but it's all from the perspective of a very liberal, like Vogue reporter and how she's encountering him. So, and by the fact that she calls her article The Interview with the Fire Guy because he's very pissy about being called the Fire Guy. We'll see if that goes anywhere. My favorite thing I've ever written was actually one of my 2 least successful, tied with the Storming Area 51 anthology. I also had the Ants Go Marching in the Heart's Enchantment anthology.
Fantastic.
I love that story just because I do this total deep dive into this woman who has magical powers, but she's locked in a prison because of them, and she entertains herself by organizing the ants to bring her food from the kitchen. And so there's this trail of ants, and she just sits there all day for several years doing nothing but that. And this winds up being very useful when she gets let out. But I absolutely love that story. The Sabaton background to that story, the background music for that story was the Attack of the Dead Men.
So that's a good one.
All right, so we're literally got seconds left. I'm going to suggest that I'll say goodbye real quickly. Would you guys please put your links to your author websites into the Rob Howell channel so that people can find it later, and then we'll get off the channel so that Lori and all the people who've done great work at Chattacon can continue on. I believe Amanda Makepeace is the next one in this section. So I'm going to hang out some for a while on the live non-panel chat there for a bit for anybody who's got other questions who's watching from the Discord channel. And thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thanks again to Chattacon for giving us a chance to chat about stuff. When Songs of Valor comes out at Fantasy, and it's got these 5 authors and a few nobodies you probably never heard of, like Larry Correa and David Weber and so on and so forth. So you guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.
Take care.